Hey everybody, how y'all doing? My name is Jordan Carroll. I am stepping in for Brittany Fortune today to present to you a really awesome presentation that I've given quite a few times in her classes and also in other different formats. It's called The New Age of LinkedIn. And what that means is we're going to learn how to build authentic connections, make money, and find jobs in a world that is honestly batshit crazy with technology. LinkedIn is providing a whole new opportunity for all of us to really capitalize on. And I want to teach you some different concepts that I've learned that have really helped me in different ways. So we're going to go through what you're going to learn, which is how to set yourself up to become a magnet for luck, job opportunities, and also some of that cheese, money, how to also integrate quickly into communities around the world and also provide value first in your relationships, which is incredibly important. Also, how to maintain relationships that are meaningful to you wherever they are. Now in the digital age, we can have friendships across the world, across the country, or next door to us. It doesn't really matter because we have ways of keeping in touch with people. LinkedIn is one of those ways to start building those relationships. So we'll talk about that. Also, why I'm talking about it. I am a Chico graduate of 2013, business marketing major. I also had many of the same courses that you probably had. I got a sales certificate. I was on the sales team. And I left my corporate job, was it 2 years ago now? A year, 2 years ago now? And since then, I've had multiple different companies that I've created as well as startups that I've worked for and have generated a lot of different revenue in terms of using LinkedIn as a source of prospecting, using LinkedIn as a source of social proof. And it's brought me a ton of opportunities. And I'm, again, not saying any of these things to brag. I'm just saying them so that you understand that it's actually attainable and that there are ways to use it that you may not know of. So I also had a weekly video series where I interview different founders and entrepreneurs internationally. That's amassed hundreds of thousands of views solely on LinkedIn. I also put the content out on Instagram and YouTube and other places, but LinkedIn is just a crazy place for engagement in your content. It's really great because you can do business related things, and now it's becoming more of a social network as well, where you can be vulnerable or you can talk about certain things that are important to you that are not necessarily all work related. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. And then, over the course of the past 10 years, I've moved 20 times. I've lived on 4 different continents. I've had, pretty much full locational independence. And what that means is, my work can go with me wherever I live. So I can live in different countries and continue to work and do the things that I want to do. And at the same time, creating, meaningful and borderless relationships. I don't have to be right next to someone to be a good friend of them. I've learned different ways of how to travel and keep in touch with people. So here's what I do. So I am a program consultant for Remote Year. Remote Year is a company that puts together 4 and 12-month itineraries that go to different countries around the world for people who can work remotely. If you want to know more about Remote Year, feel free to contact me as well. I'll have my contact information at the very end of this presentation. And then I'm also a life and career coach for aspiring remote workers. I am creating courses designed to help people find remote work. This is really my livelihood, is traveling and working. And again, LinkedIn is essential to a lot of the things that I'm doing, whether it's creating the content that I create, whether it's finding speaking gigs, whether it is guest lecturing. Like, I'm giving a guest lecture right now completely remote, and a lot of you will probably look me up on LinkedIn and add me there, which is awesome. But just to kind of preface for you, LinkedIn is imperative for me in everything that I do. And it's just an awesome resource that if you don't currently use LinkedIn very much, you should definitely consider doing so. So my why for LinkedIn is because what I see is networking, and the definition of networking and valuable connections is the power and ability of your relationships to provide you what you desire in your life. So the internet at this point makes relationships omnipresent. They can be anywhere, they can be abundant, they can be authentic at scale. And you can really build out your network when you don't need anything. And I think that's a huge, 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 huge thing that you should think about is, what are you building now that's going to impact you a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And building that very intentionally now so that you can reap the benefits later. Networking and your connections and all these things that surround you are your solution to any challenge. Say that you need another client, networking. Say that you need a girlfriend, networking. Say that you need more friends, networking. It's all related to the people and the communications and the contact that you have in your life with other people. And when you deliver with intention and effort and consistency, you'll find results. So what is a weak tie? Now, normally when I'm in front of a class giving this lecture, I will ask this and find out who knows what a weak tie is. But since we don't have that luxury, what I'm going to do is just explain to you that a weak tie is when someone like person A here knows person C and person B. Person B and C are weak ties. So they know the same person, but they don't know each other. Now, I contend that the most important relationships in your life are these weak ties because that's where everything lies that you don't know. And everything that you ever need is in those weak ties. There's also a statistic that we're all 7 degrees separation from Kevin Bacon or something like that. So it's just to show you that a lot of your weak ties are can be very high influential people, can be people that hire you for your next job, can be your next girlfriend. That's why I think weak ties are so important. So when we look at LinkedIn and as a means to leverage LinkedIn to find some of these weak ties or connect with them or build different relationships, we want to ask ourselves, what's our main goal with LinkedIn? And what is our main challenges? And then how often do we use LinkedIn? So if you're not using LinkedIn, very much, I'd say at least try to use it once, twice a week. If you're not using it at that frequency, if you could use it every day or every other day and just put some time on your calendar, we'll talk about why you would do that and how you would do that. But I just want you to reframe your mind to be thinking, if you're spending all this time on Instagram or you're spending all this time on Snapchat or you're spending all this time on these other apps, think about allocating some of that time to LinkedIn instead, because LinkedIn is actually going to help you with your career. So LinkedIn, really misconception wise, it's not your mom's online CV anymore. It's not just a resume. They really want to be a Facebook for professionals. So they're really turning around a lot of how the user interface looks. They want to make sure that people are feeling like they can be social, that they can engage with each other and get a lot of value out of the platform. And it's really good to use LinkedIn for B2B and B2C sales and partnerships and to find jobs. You can really target your outreach to certain types of people, and you can connect with them on the platform. When you do connect with people, I always recommend adding a note. If you don't know how to do that, there is basically when you press connect, it says, do you want to add a note? Add note, and then tell the person why you're connecting with them. A lot of people, I think when I was in college as well, I didn't connect with very many people that I did not know in person, but I would challenge your thinking in that the way that LinkedIn is set up is so that you are connecting with relevant people in your industry or in the industries that you want to be in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So it's also really good for thought leadership. And if you're wanting to display your expertise and the things that you're passionate about, you can get very organic engagement. A lot of the other platforms like YouTube or Instagram, Facebook, to get the kind of engagement that you can get on LinkedIn, you need either a really big audience already or you need to pay for ads. LinkedIn is great because you don't have to pay for ads. You don't need necessarily a huge audience to get a lot of engagement. They'll push your content, especially video content. And a couple of stats here on the right, there's 3 million active job listings on LinkedIn, and 50% of B2B buyers check LinkedIn before buying. I would contend that's probably a higher statistic than 50%. I check LinkedIn almost every time I ever have a professional relationship that I need to evaluate with someone. So some more compelling stats here. 80% of B2B leads come from LinkedIn. 65% of B2B companies have acquired a customer through LinkedIn. 61 million LinkedIn users are senior level influencers. That means 40 million are decision makers. It's the most used social media among Fortune 500 companies. And then of 500 total users, only 3 million share content weekly. That's about 1%. So when you realize that you're not getting lost like you're getting lost in Instagram and Twitter, you really have a chance to kind of build your brand and stand out from the other people that are looking for jobs, the other kids that are in your seats that don't have a LinkedIn presence. You can take advantage of this. And I just want you to consider that when platforms are in this kind of a stage where it's still kind of in this early adopter stage of people that are sharing content on LinkedIn, this is how you're going to differentiate yourself. The resume is not enough anymore. Companies are looking you up online, 100%. And what are they going to find? They're going to find a bunch of pictures of you drinking booze. They're going to find a bunch of pictures of you, partying or whatever. Let's control some of that, and let's put some really good juice behind what your personal brand is on LinkedIn. And that's to say that you need a bold strategy. So, the internet does provide a lot of different tools and information and people. And really, we've never been so connected yet so disconnected. So when we look at using LinkedIn the way that I'm talking about, it can be kind of stressful because maybe there's too many people, features, content. You don't really know what to say. You don't know what value you provide. And often your effort may be wasted, or it can be paralyzing to even think of like, what should I do? So we're going to talk about that in a little bit too. What are misconceptions about networking in general? So networking only happens at networking events. That is false. Networking happens every single time that you walk down the street. Every single interaction that you have is a networking opportunity, whether that's in line at Starbucks, whether that's petting someone's dog, whatever it is, all interaction is networking. So just consider that networking can be pretty much anything, and opportunities can come from almost any situation. It's all about who you know. I would contend that it's not. It's about who knows you. So I could know Joe Rogan, for instance, but does he know me? Would he do anything for me? No. So really, it's about who knows you and what kind of credibility you have in your name. And that goes along with like the personal brand that you're going to be building on LinkedIn and other social profiles. Um, and then number three is that you shouldn't network with your competition. Now, I think that collaboration and a thought of abundance is really the way to think, that there is an abundant amount of opportunities in the world for you. In competition, don't even think about competition, because you should be collaborating with people that you can collaborate with, and you should be worrying about yourself, not necessarily your competition. You should be the best version of who you can be. Because once we get into like all this comparison and we start thinking about who we are in comparison to other people, that's when we really lose ourselves. Number four, the larger your network, the less authentic your relationships. That's false as well. Now, with the internet age, relationships are omnipresent and they're abundant. They can be anywhere, they can be all over the world. So as long as you're putting in effort to your relationships, I could be texting 100 people a day, but I could also be caring simultaneously about those 100 people. It doesn't mean that I don't care about the people. It just means that it takes more effort to be someone who has a big network and can keep up with that. Vulnerability is weak. Number five, vulnerability is strong. When you can admit, your weaknesses and talk about different things that you've gone through and experiences you've had and lessons you've learned, I think that's really a huge strength. So don't think of vulnerability as weakness. Think of it as strength. Although no one ever wants to hear all your complaints. Like, don't take it the wrong way. I think when people just sit and complain and look for sympathy, that's not great. But if you are using vulnerability as a means to talk about what you've learned and like try to inspire other people to learn something as well, then that's where I think vulnerability can be very strong. Six, your business and personal life have to be separate. I think it's really hard to imagine people have a work-life balance, because work takes up about a third of your life. And it's not really a balanced situation. Like, another third is like sleep. So you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. It's not easy to balance that. I would contend that you should be trying to do something where you're working with people that you care about and you're working on something that you care about. Now, oftentimes when you just leave college, that's not possible because you need to just get in the workforce and kind of figure things out. But the closer that you can get throughout your life to building a personal life and a business life that are very congruent, the happier you'll be. Seven, destiny will bring you the people that you need. That's false. You have to work. You have to work at this. You have to put effort into the law of attraction, bringing the right types of people towards you based on your energy, based on, what you want from the world. And you have to ask the world for what you want. And you have to talk to people who are the right people to talk to. And putting that effort in is going to be the destiny. So it takes effort. It's not just sitting and waiting. And number eight, people are inaccessible and unwilling to help. That's not true. I, for instance, love talking to folks at Chico. I love talking to people that I can mentor. I love, the idea that what I'm saying can provide value to you. And I was helped a lot throughout college, throughout my young adult life, whatever it is. I had a lot of mentors. I still do. and people are constantly helping me. So I'm always wanting to give back in different ways. And I think that that's a great way for you to find people that are going to be willing to help you is if you start giving yourself. So Brittany is one of those people. Like Brittany is an awesome instructor. She is someone who truly cares about giving back to the community there in Chico, to the students at that university. So don't take for granted that you have someone there that can really, really go to bat for you and get you help. And she's the one who, reaches out to me and gives me this idea to come do this virtual lecture, which is awesome. And she's doing this for you so that you learn more and more things. So now we're going to talk about like some of the tactical and strategic things that you can do on LinkedIn. So I want to start with developing a target persona based on your goals. So what we're going to do is just say all connections are not created equal. Like life is way too short to spend it with the wrong people, and you should avoid people who don't have any relevance or social capital in your life. And you can think about that in a way of who's going to help you achieve your goals and who can you also provide value to. So we're thinking about reaching out to people on LinkedIn, for example. Maybe I'm looking for a VP of sales in my company or in a different company who can provide mentorship. Maybe I'm looking for a Facebook ads expert with experience in the fitness industry, or maybe I'm looking for someone who hosts knitting meetups so I can build friendships in that community. So think about what are your goals and think about who are the types of people that can provide value to you and who are the types of people that you can provide value to as well. So the exercise here, which I'm going to have you do for yourself, and usually we do a live example during the class and we take about 5 minutes. So I want you to just write down a couple of people, write down 3 people would be great. So when you think about like the types of people here, again, these are people that maybe work in the same industry that you're trying to go into. Maybe they have a similar career path or similar goals, or you can provide value to them in some way. Maybe you would like to be around this person, or you share similar interests or mindset. And does this person have the capacity to help you? And is it the type of person? So take a couple of minutes, write down 3 personas. And again, these personas are like down here. So maybe it's a VP of sales in a company. So let's just take an example. Say that you're in college right now, which you are, and you're looking to go into sales and you're looking to go and work for a tech startup in the Bay Area. I would start looking at people that are already working in a role, like a sales role, at a startup in San Francisco, for instance. And I would try to find someone who's maybe a year, 2, 3 years ahead of me. Because as soon as you start asking people who are really, really high level, maybe VPs, whatnot, they're not going to have time to speak with you. But someone who may be a little bit more willing is someone who has recently gone through that. And if you look through LinkedIn, you can find people that have gone to Chico, for instance. And that's a great, great way to bridge that gap is say, hey, we went to Chico we both went to Chico. I'm really interested in getting a job at blank and blank company or a job role similar to yours. Would you have, 15 minutes to talk about some of the things that you're doing and maybe some ways that I can help you? And you can think of different ways that maybe an intern would help them, like doing some sort of company research or doing some prospecting for them, building lists for them. So there's a lot of different ways that you can provide value that you don't even really know that you can right now. And I would leverage those things. I would search on the internet, internships for sales in blank and blank industry and try to figure out what those job responsibilities are and then offer to do those things for people. So this is a good time to pause, take 3 to 5 minutes, write those things out. Now that we're continuing and you've done that exercise, let's talk about engagement. So the power of intentional engagement, once you have this target persona, the biggest thing you want to do is engage with those people online, especially on LinkedIn. So the biggest problem with most online engagement is that it's completely mindless. I think we've all come to consciousness after 30 minutes of like scrolling through Instagram and there's just a bunch of weird food and maybe people talking about CrossFit, whatever it is. But what I would recommend you do is start to really think about how you're interacting and engaging in your social media. Because if it's so mindless that you're just consuming content all day, you're not creating any content, you're not engaging with people that would be important to you, you're just wasting your time. And it's really easy to do that. It's sometimes fun to just kind of escape and do that, but I would think more about commenting and liking on posts that are aligned with your values and goals and the people that you're trying to connect with. Because other people can also see your activity. So if you're liking stuff online that is like inappropriate, or it's just a bunch of Instagram models with booties hanging out of their thongs, whatever it is, like people are going to see that and like that's what they're going to associate you with. So you want to just make sure that what you're commenting and liking is a good reflection of you. Now we're going to do a quick exercise called the personal value exercise, and we're going to talk about like what's our value in these exchanges, especially on LinkedIn. So your value is really difficult to quantify when you're young, when you maybe lack relevant experience in some of these industries. So what I would say is write these things out. Like, what are you good at? What would your family and friends say that you're good at? What experience have you had? Think about different achievements and awards that you've been involved in. And what communities are you part of? Do you have any affiliations or involvement on campus or in your past? What challenges have you overcome? All of us have had challenges to get to this point in life. We don't get out of life unscathed. So think about times that you failed and you've learned a lesson. And this is going to help you articulate your value to others, and that is supremely important, especially on LinkedIn when we're going to be making requests to people for time. We need to know how we're providing value to them. So take a couple minutes to write these questions out and take a pause right here. Now we're back on LinkedIn connection process. So here is a really interesting way that I found online. There's a guy named Tim Queen who has a connection process that he put out, and one of those, all those steps here are listed out. So the first step is do your homework. Check someone's profile, expand all the sections, read out their posts, what kind of articles do they put out, and just figure out what kind of person they are. And take a couple of notes. What's interesting? Do they have certain goals? What value can you help them in some of their pursuits or different projects that they have going on? And then kind of qualify. Is there a real possibility for future collaboration, for them to help you for any reason to connect? Because the idea is not to just connect with people just to connect. Like, you really want to think about how relevant people are in your life in these situations. So then what you're going to do is you're going to write to them. You're going to say hi, and then you're going to include their first name. You're going to give them an intro. Maybe you're talking about a post that they read about them, or that you have a friend who recommended you to them, or maybe you searched for someone like this and you found this person. And then talk about what caught your interest, whether you noticed that they work somewhere, or that you read to their post, you liked this point, you wanted to add or ask a question. And then you kind of are following up on advice, or you got some results from whatever they posted, and then offer that bridge where it's like, I saw you're offering or looking for blank, or something where you can talk about how you can help them, how they can help you, and if this sounds interesting, give them a really easy way to say yes. So when I mean that, like at the call to action, always offer up, hey, do you have 15 minutes at Friday at 12 p.m. Pacific? If so, send me your email so I can send you a calendar invite. Make it so freaking easy for them to say yes, because the last thing you want to do is give someone more work to say yes to you. So always, 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 and this goes for anything. This is more than just connecting on LinkedIn. If you're the person who doesn't come up with decisions and frames that for other people, then you're putting yourself in a position where people have to work harder to make plans with you. So always be the person who suggests something like, hey, like if you're going to lunch with friends, be the person who selects the restaurant and be the person who selects the time. All of this, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, that wastes time, and you come across as someone who is not certain of themselves, who doesn't know what they want. So in your life, it just helps you to be more decisive, and decisions will become easier once you start doing that. So now we'll talk about like taking LinkedIn offline. After you've sent these, maybe you sent this connection process to someone who lives locally in Chico. So really maybe what you want to do is meet them for a coffee somewhere downtown, and you take LinkedIn offline basically. It's normal. So just understand, like, it's super normal for people to meet on LinkedIn. Now, when I travel, I always hit up people on LinkedIn who I've never met in my life, but they're super relevant. Maybe I want to do an interview with them because I really like their company, or maybe I want to connect with them because they're another digital nomad who's working, remotely in a different country. And these things are just normal parts of conversation. Like, there's so many different online sites now. Like, it would be kind of weird if I did it on Facebook, right? The context is not the same. Instagram, maybe. Tinder, obviously, the idea is to meet up, hopefully, or you're just like texting each other, sexting each other, whatever it is. But I would contend that LinkedIn is super normal to meet up. So what you a lot of times in your positions as college students would want is an informational interview. So it's kind of like I want to pick your brain type of thing. It's most acceptable to do this now while you're still in college. You're starting at a company and it's super early. Like at my age, I have to really come up with a good reason for someone to meet with me to pick, their brain because I'm older, I have more experience. Like they're gonna be like, why should I, give you my time? So I have to just come up with other reasons why they should. Always try to get mutual connections. Like if you have a connection to someone else and it's like a second or third connection, always try to get that mutual connection to introduce you first. That's such an easier way to meet people. And even when you're traveling domestically in the States, like one thing that I love to do is set up dinners or set up different times where if I'm going to Chicago or if I'm going to Dallas or if I'm going to LA or San Diego or San Francisco, I always set up um, meetings with people and do dinners and stuff like that. And I think it's really fun when you go to new places to kind of leverage your LinkedIn network and look at who you're connected with in those areas because you'll often forget, especially after college, like who lives where. So that's a good place to reference that. You can also contact event organizers in different areas through LinkedIn. Like if someone's throwing an event and say, hey, what's going on in this event? I'd love to come. Maybe you buy a ticket there and you say, I'm looking forward to meeting you there. You can also, find a lot of different collaborations for content, partnerships, that sort of thing. These are just a few examples. Not going to really go into too much depth, but this is a dinner party where I put together in Chicago, and I had sent a bunch of people on LinkedIn. This is one where I'm introducing a couple people on LinkedIn to each other. This is a really awesome note that I got from a guy who had been watching my content and found it really valuable, and then a few other people that I reached out to interview and just compliment that I liked their content. Event tips. So when you actually go to an event, LinkedIn's the new business card. Always connect and add a note. You can ask Brittany about this event over here. We had a LinkedIn local Chico, which I was a speaker at last year, and I dragged Brittany there. It was really funny because she is like self-proclaimed the worst networker in the world, but she's not bad at all. She just doesn't give herself enough credit. I think she's great. And so just a couple things like, don't feel like you need to bring business cards, like add people on LinkedIn, get their phone number. Like it's not a big deal to not have business cards. Stand near the funnels of the event. So stand near the food where people are coming in or the door or something where people are coming towards you so that you don't always have to like walk up to them. This is great. Some of these are great tricks for introverts as well. Get there early to avoid the stress of walking into a full room. If you get there early and you kind of help out with the organizer, you could say, hey, can I help you set up some stuff? And then maybe you could snack on some food and kind of get yourself prepared. And then as people come in, it's a little bit less overwhelming to just talk to people one-to-one rather than walking into a huge room and there's already like 50, 100 people there. And you're like, where do I even start? So you can also look at the attendee list, the speaker list, and the event planners first. See if you can get an introduction to someone. Events like any conferences or LinkedIn local events like this, like some of the best things to do and are done in advance. So if you can find people that you can connect with and have a conversation with beforehand and say, hey, let's expand on this conversation at the event. Let's grab a coffee, whatever it is. Like you already have things planned, so the event is going to be valuable to you. Always come with the small list of questions and talking points. Ask good questions. Don't ask, what do you do? Ask, what's been the best part of your week? What are you hoping to get out of this event? What are you passionate about? Ask things that are going to get people to show you personally who they are. And I think that that's a huge mistake is just to go straight into work. Like, what do you do? It's kind of like you're qualifying someone to even be worthy of talking to you. So ask better questions. Also go with friends, like see if you can get a friend to tag team conversations with you and harness each other's connections. It's always a great way to like go around and network with another person and you can kind of hold the conversation if both of you are doing it. And then hashtag hunting. So I don't know if you know this, but LinkedIn, you can use hashtags. So for instance, you could use LinkedIn local Chico here as a hashtag and you put that in content. You can sort it by content and it will show you all the people that have posted about that. Now, this also works for jobs. This also works for events. This also works for people in your industry. Like search hashtags and you could search content and you could find different people that are posting about certain things. You can also find that in people. You can also find that in groups. A lot of different great stuff there. So take action. What do I want you to take out of this? This was a quick lecture. I have so many more points on this that it's kind of hard to do. I don't want to overwhelm people, but systemize these habits in your calendar. Do them each week. Watch the results happen over time. And I think when you commit to this mindset of awareness and abundance, that there's an opportunity already at your fingertips to start doing this before you graduate, you're going to be in a lot better place. I did not do that. So I think you should, and you just are going to stand to be like in such a better place, like really, because this platform has evolved since I was in college. Develop that networking persona, message 3 people on LinkedIn that fit that, and then also introduce 2 people that should know each other in your network. One of the other things I'm going to talk about is called a Textercise. So I also call this the bottom of the thread exercise. So what I want you to do, everywhere that you have what we call message threads. So whether that's your text messages, whether that's your WhatsApp, whether that's your LinkedIn messages, whether that's your Instagram DMs, your Facebook messages, all these places where your messages are compiling, oftentimes we don't delete them, right? So scroll to the very bottom of these and find 3 people in the bottom of these threads that for some reason you've lost touch with. Maybe you got busy, maybe they got busy, the conversation stalled, and you haven't spoken in a month, you haven't spoken in a year, whatever it is. Like I've had conversations with like ex-girlfriends in there from like years past, and I'm like, oh, why would I ever text them? So not those people, but you want to text people that you actually care about, you want to keep a relationship with, and just shoot them a note and say, hey, it's been like a long time. I really wanted to get connected back with you and just see how everything's going. Don't send it with any other reason but just getting in touch. And if you consistently do that each week of your life, you will always be that person who's keeping in touch with people, who will always be building those relationships, always be maintaining the relationships, and opportunities will come your way. Another thing here is clean your feed. So when you go through your Instagram feed, when you go through your LinkedIn feed, unfollow people that have irrelevant content, because the feed that you have and that is displayed to you is something that you can control. And it's often also an inhibitor for you. If you end up having a feed that is not the right people, like whatever content you put out is not going to go to the right people. So make sure you clean that feed, and then compliment a stranger about their content. You find an article that you really like, if you find a post that you really like, message, DM that person, and just say, hey, I really love this post. I like this comment about this. Here's kind of how I think about it. I appreciate your insights and what you put out. Don't have any ask. The more that you do that as well, the more that you bring good vibes your way, you bring good energy your way, and potentially opportunities, because those people, when you message them and tell them that, they remember you. It's important for people, and it's great. Also add me on LinkedIn, Jordan Carroll, and then you can email me at jordan@jordanscarroll. That's supposed to be .com. I forgot .com. Email me at jordan@jordanscarroll.com with questions. I also have a target persona worksheet. I have a job interview guide, and I have a questions talking point list for informational interviews. If you email me and request those things, I will send them to you. But of course, you have to take action to get those. So be the person who, if you want them, take a little bit of action, take a minute to email me, and I will take a few minutes to send you those things. I'm coming up here on time. So what I'm going to do is go to, first I'm going to just change this so that you can see it here, .com. Perfect. So that's what you send your email to. And then, again, if you have any questions or you want to get connected with me, this is an old email. So it's not that email. Do the Jordan. I love how I'm doing this right as I'm filming this. This is great. jordan@jordanscarroll.com. So find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram if you want to, Jay Spencer. And then I've got this ultimate job interview guide. I've got those talking points, all that other stuff. Send me your questions. Love to hear from you. Thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you so much for everybody in Brittany's classes for listening to this. I've had an awesome time. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I know probably most of you are about to graduate, and just think about all the different awesome opportunities you could have lying ahead of you if you take advantage of some of the things that you learned today.